Being with us this evening. We'd like to start with the flag salute, and then we're going to move straight into student recognition.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Director Cliff is going to introduce us to some students.
Okay. Wow. Just in time for the season, Hillsboro High School's drama students have made their first foray into the horror genre with the current production of Night of the Living Dead, based on the classic film by George Romero. I'm going to split up my presentation momentarily to invite them in. Student interest in the play has been record-breaking. with over 100 auditioning, the cast has had a special Saturday workshops with the nationally renowned stage combat director John Moore, the zombie makeup workshop with their new drama instructor Tom Monteverdi. In a homage to the original film. The original film had a strong influence in the modern culture as both a metaphor and indictment of its time, the turbulent McCarthy era. The production is set in the 1960s and designed in grayscale, like a black and white film. While the play has its share of scares and screams, it also touches on some serious themes, including how ordinary people are manipulated through fear and how catastrophes can bring out the worst in people. Let's take a moment to recognize the Hillsboro drama group and have them share a few comments with us.
I think I have to get one picture of all of them.
These are photo op zombies.
Yeah, photo op zombies. I think that's just.
Instructed not to bite any school.
Can the dice get you here? I don't know about symbols. I don't know. I'm curious.
Don't do me smart.
One more. One.
This is so making the newsletter. Thank you for inviting us. Be good, zombies. I just wanted to say a few quick words. My name is John Monteverdi. I'm the new theater teacher at Hillsboro High School. Thank you guys. Good job. They also actually know all the choreography for Thriller. I'm actually not kidding. That's when I was hired last spring by our principal, Arturo Lomeli, one of his requests was to really increase student engagement. Actually, no, wait here. I'm going to introduce this young man in a minute. Was to increase student engagement in our theater programs. And so one of the ways I decided to do that was to expand a little bit of what we do. Now, obviously, horror is not for everybody. This kind of show is obviously not for everybody. We still will keep all of the kind of pieces that we used to do. In fact, our next show is a Shakespeare play, and our spring show is a Cole Porter musical. So we're really hitting a broad spectrum. However, we did get a lot of new engagement in this. We had 100 students actually audition for the show. Especially for a fall show. It's actually also doing record box office for a fall show as far as our students actually coming to the show. And that's because a lot of kids who may not have been interested in other kinds of stuff, as I say about Night of the Living Dead, for people who like this sort of thing, this is the sort of thing they like. I want to briefly introduce this young man next to me, Peter Philo. He is our makeup artist for this. And actually designed a lot of the makeup. And just say hi, Peter, and anything else. Hi. But he actually was a great find and actually has designed a lot of the horrific stuff that you've seen here tonight. So really we had great student engagement with all of this, from the sets and costumes, the kids working on that, to all of the kids involved. And we actually run one more weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday this weekend, 7:30 at Hillsboro High School. So if you'd like to come out and see us, it's a really fun Halloween weekend, and I hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Kind of all escaped. Normally that'd be a big photo op.
Actually, can we bring the zombies back for a
Do you
group,
want the photos?
group shot of the zombies?
Yes, I'm there. Just keep it her away. This is mine.
Oh, Monty, you're looking fabulous.
Thank you.
Just you guys with your drama team here.
get you guys all around the
And
front.
Wayne, if he wants to. It's
Wayne, come on.
totally up to Wayne.
Stagger quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, meeting headroom.
Quick staggering.
Quick staggering.
Script shot.
Right. With this one? Yeah, she does.
Want to be picture me?
No, Peter, we're inside.
Peter's on the side. There we go. All right.
Say zombies.
Say fresh flesh on 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween.
What do we do now, Monty?
Go around. Go home. Study. Yeah. Like maybe not the first time.
Yeah, not the first time you screamed fresh flesh.
That was a great presentation. We have a second event tonight. Tonight we're also pleased to welcome the students from Glencoe High School for their first robotics competition, the FRC Team 4488 Shockwave, the first robotics challenge team at Glencoe High School. FIRST is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1989 to inspire young people's interest and participation in science and technology. The acronym FIRST means for the inspiration and recognition of science and technology. In addition to a series of competition victories at the national level, the Shockwave team members are engaged in community outreach activities promoting STEM to Hillsboro youth. The team is composed of 35 students and 15 mentors, most of whom are professional engineers and business leaders in the Hillsboro area. The team will now demonstrate the most recent competitive robot for the group here and describe some of the activities they've done in Hillsboro. Welcome.
So I'm Teresa Pavlik, and this is my third year with Shockwave. I'm a junior, and this is also the third year of Shockwave's existence. And so just a brief overview of our interaction within the schools. During the 2013 season, we did Lego robotics at W.L. Henry, and that was really cool for us because we had the students, our Shockwave students, be the mentors to the students at W.L. Henry. And we're continuing this effort, and it's been really awesome for us to get to learn how to be a mentor and to teach the kids, and the kids were really receptive to it too. And then the 2014 season, we moved to McKinney, and we did Lego robotics at McKinney, and now this year, the 2015 season, we're actually doing a real team that will go to competition. So we're in the process of that right now. We meet with the kids at McKinney every Tuesday, and it's really great to see the growth and to see the benefit to our students as well as the students there. So we've just loved getting to be involved with the elementary students. And then also this year we've kind of adopted Evergreen's FTC team, which stands for First Tech Challenge. So that is a level of robotics that serves 7th to 12th graders. And they have a new FTC team that just kind of needs some help. So we're helping them out, getting started and whatnot. And that's also another great opportunity for us. And then on the high school level, we've been supporting the 2 FTC teams at our school since we started. We helped them with grant writing and fundraising. We've shared some members with them. We like to work beside them so that we can all be successful. We also provide a productive club for students, obviously. We have about 40 students in our robotics club this season. So robotics club is pre-season, so we're not into our build season yet, which is the really intense part, but now we're meeting once weekly with an activity many of the weekends. And so we have about 40 kids participating, which is awesome to see that growth and see that interest within our school. And we're also providing a huge benefit to students because we're able to learn technical and other skills from professionals. So like especially during build season when we're there 6 days a week, we are working alongside with many Intel volunteers and volunteers from the school and just many people from local businesses that are professional engineers, and they're teaching us all of these things, as well as people involved in business and marketing and things such as that. It's awesome to just get this hands-on experience. And then we also, on the business side of things, our business team is growing, which is cool to see, and we have several mentors that are focused on business, and the business areas of robotics includes fundraising, grant writing, public speaking, communications, things like that. And then as for our involvement within the FIRST community, which is the overarching kind of company that runs robotics, we're going to be hosting a tournament at an FLL, so a Lego Robotics tournament at Pointer Middle School this year in December. We've done that the past 2 years as well. And then we're hosting an FTC scrimmage in December as well. In the past, we've hosted an FTC tournament, but because of some changes, tournaments are going to be held later, so we're going to be holding a scrimmage at Glencoe. And then we're also hosted the Business Roundtable event, which is something kind of unique to our team that we started our first year, and it's for other robotics teams in the area, and we hosted that downtown Portland, and we're just really doing our best with our efforts to help other FIRST teams, and we are very pleased with how that's been turning out. And in the future, we hope to include more of a charity aspect within our team, and one idea that we've recently had is at our competitions, trading our team shirts for people bringing in blankets or coats or things like that. So as we kind of have a charity drive at competition, and so we hope to move forward with things like that. And as for our accomplishments to date, 2013, you likely know that we won Rookie All-Star at the Portland competition, and that qualified us to the World competition, where we also won Rookie All-Star there. And then for 2014, every district event that we went to, we won, so that was pretty exciting. And then we qualified to the World Championship from a robot performance this year. And we also won a safety award at the world level. And we finished this last season, in the top 20 teams worldwide. So our robot performance has been excellent, and we hope to see nothing less than that this year. So now I have Carson Miller and Nick Milford, who will be demonstrating the robot.
Sorry about that. Might want to stand back. Or catch you, Luke.
So when he fires it, there is, right now there's not as much tension as there usually is. Usually we have around 300 pounds of force on it. Right now it's only about 200. So when he fires it, it releases all of that tension and launches the ball. So can you launch it, Nick? Usually it goes about 30 feet when we have it fully tensioned. And then when he pulls this down, there is a motor that is geared to pull down the whole catapult through some linkage arms, and that is what actually tensions it, because there is surgical tubing down there. Past that, it's not too complicated. This arm comes out to you. This arm folds down, and these wheels in the front will catch the ball and pull it into the catapult to load it. That's kind of all the robot does. As you saw, it rolls around, catches chairs, shoots giant yoga balls.
So our next build season will be starting the first Saturday in January, whatever day that is, and then we'll be competing throughout February, March, and hopefully April. And I'd just like to thank especially the school board and also other local businesses such as volunteers.
Don't take it all the way out yet, please.
And just all the local support we have is really awesome. So thank you guys for having us.
So do you guys have restrictions in terms of how much money you can spend on your robot, or is that not an aspect of the competition?
Kind of. There is a $4,000 more or less budget we have to restrain to. We can't spend over $4,000 on the robot in total, and we can't spend more than $500, I think, on any one part. But parts in the kit of parts, such as the electrical control system revision, that's not part of it. So, yes, but some of the things we get for free from sponsors and from FIRST itself. So, it's not that hard of a thing to restrict ourselves to.
So when you have a build, you said your build season is coming up?
Yeah.
So do you have a specific task that you build for?
Yeah, there's going to be a challenge that we don't find out until the day that the build season starts. We all go to this big event called our kickoff event. So all the teams from this region will be going there, and they nationally, I guess internationally, announce what the game, we call it, is.
Okay.
And then we build a robot that caters, that will be able to compete in that game.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. 2 cameras here. Chris, no hiding. All right, 1, 2, 3. And now with this camera.
No fresh flesh.
No fresh flesh eaters, I hope. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
You haven't been to a competition to watch these guys in action, put it on your schedule because it's impressive.
I also thought it was impressive when you were at Glencoe and you had all the young kids that they changed stations, and you had all these little kids that were just like, just going from station to station, and we're so excited. So thank you for keeping them engaged in engineering.
All right, now on with business. I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
A second. Questions? It's been moved by Janine, seconded by Adriana to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And audience time. Public participation in board meetings is governed by policy BDBH. Patrons may comment on specific agenda items at the beginning of the meeting, or at the discretion of the board chair, they may be deferred to the time that the item is before the board as stated in the agenda. Comments about non-agenda items will be heard during audience time at the beginning of this meeting. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. I currently have 3 forms. If there's anyone else in the audience who wanted to speak this evening, you'd want to grab a form off the back table. And board members, both items, there's 3 people each speaking on policy, so we'll take those comments out of those agenda items. And with that, I'd be looking for a motion to approve consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
Questions? It's been moved by Jean, seconded by Eric to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're going to move into a series of action items. And the first one is to proclaim American Education Week. And if I could get a motion, I think what I'll do is read the proclamation once the motion has passed. Or would you like the proclamation first?
I make a motion to proclaim American Education Week as printed in the agenda.
And I will second that.
Perfect, thank you. Board members, would you like to hear the proclamation, or are you okay with, I can read it after it's been approved, does that sound good?
Just fine.
Perfect, all right, any other questions about it? So it's been moved by Janine and seconded by Glenn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And now you can hear our proclamation, where we take a moment to think about our staff. Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas education employees, be they licensed, classified, and technical support staff or administrators, work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism.
And whereas our nation is celebrating the week of November 16th through the 22nd of 2014 as American Education Week, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Hillsboro School District does proclaim the week of November 16th through 22nd as American Education Week in Hillsboro School District with the theme, Great Public Schools, a Basic Right and Our Responsibility. The Board of Directors further encourage all citizens to extend their commitment to public education and to the future of our children by supporting our community schools through the contribution of time and energy. And with that, we need to approve Budget Committee members. Adam.
Thank you. When I was here at the work session a couple weeks ago, we didn't have enough Budget Committee members. Actually, at the September board meeting, we didn't have enough Budget Committee members to fill all of our vacancies, which are 2. During that interim, we received a total of 5 applications, and the board last week, subcommittee of the board interviewed those 5 candidates, and I believe Director Aker has a recommendation as to who those 2 candidates will be that will be assigned.
Yeah, the recommendation from our subcommittee, Jaime Rodriguez and Betsy Julian are recommendations for the board for members to the budget committee.
Perfect. And so can you make that a motion for me, please?
I move the board approve Jaime Rodriguez and Betsy Julian as our 2 new budget committee members.
I second.
Any questions or comments? Yeah, Janine.
I just want to say thank you for the process. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the that we've set up in the work session for those that have stepped into this position or this application process to get involved. And we hope that folks continue to seek other places within the district to volunteer. So thank you very much.
And I'll just restate what I said in the working session, that we really appreciated, interviewing all 5 of the candidates. They're all outstanding individuals, and so we really want to find a place for all of them to plug into our district. We don't let anybody get away because we were just really impressed by all of them. We just couldn't take all of you on that one committee, that's all.
And my understanding is that Adam will be reaching out to the other 3 members to do lots of other committee work and places where we can have volunteers.
I think part of the interview process included a question about whether other interests the applicants might have, so we're going to reach out to them. Sure.
Great.
I see Jaime, but can you raise your hand and let everybody know who you are?
Thank you.
And Betsy, is Betsy here with you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Great.
Put a face with a name. Here you go. Thank you.
All right, and so it's been moved by Monty and seconded by Adriana to appoint these 2 to the Budget Committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you and welcome aboard.
This one's worth another applause.
And it's okay to leave early.
And next, Mike's going to walk us through the ESD level participation.
All right, thank you. You may remember that, board members will remember that House Bill 3401 allowed districts to take money that was previously allocated to educational services districts on behalf of the regional school districts, allowed them to take that money and pass through dollars. Last year we took 65% of that money. That was the max that we could take for the 2014-2015 school year. This year, next year, 2015-2016, the percentage that we're allowed to take in pass-through dollars has increased from 65% to 75%. So my recommendation is that we continue to take that pass-through money, but we do increase the amount from 65% to 75%. We walked through this in work session before, so this shouldn't be new information to anybody. We still will continue to purchase many services through the ESD, majority of those being special ed services.
So are we looking for a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the resolution to request that 75% of the NWR ESD SSF revenues received on behalf of the Hillsboro School District for the 2015-16 school year be distributed directly to the Hillsboro School District.
Second. Any other questions or comments for Mike? Okay, this was what we discussed in work session previously. Okay, so it's been moved by Glenn, seconded by Janine to approve our ESD level participation. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I like this pace, people. Next, is to adopt the 2014-15 Drug, Alcohol, and Tobacco Prevention Plan. Casey will present that, and then before we take action, this is one place where we have constituent audience participation time. So I'll have Casey go, and then Jaime, I'll have you come up, and then we'll move forward.
Okay, presented Drug, Alcohol, and Tobacco Prevention Plan at the September board meeting. We had a request to add in some state-level data, which I've added into your packet so you can see. Basically what that shows, just as in the district from the years 2011, 11-12 to 13-14, we were below or at our current level in 11 out of 12 categories. When we added the state, we still are doing well. 8 out of 12 categories, we are at or below the state level in those categories. So we have a little bit of focus area, but still feeling good about the improvement we made as a district from one year to the next.
And then Jaime, if you'd like to go ahead and come on up. And Jaime, you know the drill. You need to say your name and your address.
Hi, Rodriguez.
Well, come, please come to the podium. Here it is.
Once again, Jaime Rodriguez, 1931, Southeast Hillsboro. I come today as the chair of Hillsboro Empowers Youth. It's a nonprofit agency that's been around since about 2007. At that time, the executive director was Michelle Rodriguez. I came on board a few years ago, and I was made chair of the board in August. So it kind of hit me quick, but we did some work. I want to say that as far as the report, it's a good plan going forward. But what I didn't see was a lack of partnerships within the community. Nonprofits were also doing the same thing, also providing the same message for drug prevention and education. I noticed that on the website, whoever does the website, thank you for that massive amount of information. Can't always absorb it, but it's good that it's there. So whoever's in the room, thank you for that website. What I want to say is that on the website there is some partnerships. I saw that some nonprofits, government agencies, and businesses, which is great. I think as a district, we need to move forward and try to collaborate and partnership with as many organizations and entities as possible. But again, what I didn't see is a partnership for the drug and alcohol and tobacco plan. I want to extend what we can do is, hey, I'm looking at Travis because he wrote the report, so my apologies. But we just recently hit 9 schools on the back to school nights with a limited staff. It's a volunteer board of 7 people and 1 executive director. High energy guy named Eric Squires who's really done the delving of pushing us to get the word out. We've engaged in about 200 students and parents over those 9 schools. We've made 2 presentations, and we're even taking a step forward in making sure that we're doing Spanish language presentations to the many parents of the school district whose only language is Spanish. So again, I just want to say that continue to go forward with this plan is that we need to incorporate more nonprofit partnerships, and I welcome you to engage in that endeavor. Thank you much.
Thank you. So board members, I'd be looking for a motion to adopt the plan. Look at those crickets.
I'll make a motion to adopt the plan. Sorry, I was on the wrong page of the agenda.
Sorry,
Don't have to read the exact.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, that's what we were all looking for.
That's what you're all looking for. Sorry, and I'm technology challenged this evening.
Yeah, the board of directors adopt the 2014-15 drug, alcohol, and tobacco prevention plan.
Thank you.
Second.
Any questions? Yeah, Janine.
Just wanted to reiterate, just what we had upstairs, we talked with the care coordinators, we had a good presentation, and fabulous, absolutely amazing set of folks that are involved in our district that are helping support our students. So the more that the community can hear about what our district is doing for the benefits of our students, the better, because we have 4 care coordinators in our district that have a master's in mental health degree, and the things they do is just really impressive. So thank you for your leadership in that, and Scott Shimberly as well from Groner. So,
Jaime, I want to thank you for reaching out to us. I think nonprofits and businesses can partner with us, and the more we hear from the community, the better off we'll be. I know Casey's very busy. It's tough a lot of times for him to reach out because he's got 12 or 13 hats in the district that he wears. So coming from a nonprofit myself, I know that we have to reach out to the district, and I appreciate you coming tonight and reaching out.
Any other questions or comments? So it's been moved by Glenn and seconded by Monty to approve the drug, alcohol, and tobacco prevention plan. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Casey. And next, John's going to walk us through an RFP for wireless upgrades at our high schools.
If I could just for a moment, Casey might want to do that for me. So as you know, and with your benevolence, you provided the technology department with a one-time $100,000 amount for this year for infrastructure upgrades, and that has been targeted at wireless access, and we have targeted that at our 4 high schools. That's more of the area that we're seeing that we need it the most. We need it in all of them, but that's immediately what we can do with this amount of money. So with that in mind, we went out, we released an RFP for the cabling portion of that to either repurpose or pull new cable into our 4 high schools and install the equipment that we'll purchase separately off of different statewide contracts. So we've gotten those back, and coming to you with a recommend that the highest scoring bidder on this was Christensen Electric at the amount of $119,000 to do all 4 high schools, and asking for your approval of that RFP.
I make a motion that the Board of Directors authorize the administration of the award to contract to provide wireless infrastructure improvements as defined in the RFP in the amount of $119,017, to Christensen Electric.
Second.
Anyone have questions for John? Yeah, Janine.
Excellent timing. We just were on a technology tour last week as board members, to be able to go to these classes and see in our high school at Hill High and Evergreen Middle School, and just to see that what these students were saying, and these teachers even at Free Orchard were saying that 2 years ago it wasn't such a big deal because there wasn't as much technology, and so that hub was able to handle it. But now when you have 10 classrooms that are all fighting for that little gateway to internet heaven there, it's tough. So anyway, just wanted to say good timing on your part.
Any other questions? So it's been moved by Janine, seconded by Monty to approve the RFP for the wireless upgrades. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Happy high schoolers, yes? We got another high five. And next we have a series of policy revisions that have been on first reading, and so we'll get through them as quickly as we can. The first one is emergency drills.
Again, presented this information at the September board meeting. Since then, under review, I've not heard any public comments or revisions necessary, so as it's stated.
Can you make a motion?
I move we approve the recommended revisions to policy EBCB, emergency drills.
Second. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, it's been moved by Monty, seconded by Janine to approve the revisions to policy EBCB. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Casey gets the next one too.
Yep, policy KGB, public conduct on district property. Again, no comments or suggested language change under 30-day review, so seeking approval from the board.
And I will make that motion that the board of directors approve the recommended revisions to policy KGB, public conduct of district, or on district policy.
Second.
Anyone have questions or comments on this one? been moved by Glenn and seconded by Janine to approve the revisions to policy KGB. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Casey, you're off the hook. Next is CONA and policy on evaluation of staff.
All right, so we had the 30-day review for the evaluation of staff. The only changes that we made were at the last board meeting in which we indicated that we were going to do evaluations for classified staff in regards to the classified bargaining agreement, and we haven't had any recommendations or changes to that.
I make a motion that the Board of Directors approve the recommended revisions to policy GCN-GDN, evaluation of staff.
I second. Anyone have questions or comments? So it's been approved, motion made by Janine, seconded by Adriana to approve the revisions to GCN-GDN. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Connor, is this your first policy you've ever passed?
It is.
It never goes that quick,
First time what? Matt.
Good evening, everyone. Policy IGBHB, establishment of alternative education programs, was presented at the September board meeting. We had a couple questions during the board meeting, but have received no questions or comments since.
I make a motion that the Board of Directors approve the recommended revisions to policy IGBHB, establishment of alternative education programs.
I second. Any questions or comments on this policy? So it's been moved by Janine, seconded by Adriana to approve the revisions to IGBHB. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Matt.
Comma must be good luck.
Yes, good luck. Let's keep this good luck. We got a whole bunch of first readings coming up.
Should probably explain why we're kind of like rushing through. This is an extremely big agenda. So, not usually this jumpy on the policies, but
we had a lot of conversation leading up to them. So this is the first of our reports this evening. Travis, can you help introduce your project?
Thank you, I will. Steve Larson couldn't be here tonight, but he's played a big leadership role in forming the College and Career Pathways Project, and I'm standing in for him this evening. The dream behind our College and Career Pathways Project is that every student in Hillsboro has a sense that they have a clear and achievable roadmap in their minds about how to become successful, go to college, have a career and a fulfilling life. In order to do that, we have to make all of our systems interlinked. And for example, the steering committee behind the College and Career Pathways Project is talking about how to create a guaranteed and viable K-12 curriculum across all content areas, how comprehensive counseling services are available to all students, and they have tools like Naviance to plan their academic careers and beyond. We're multiplying the number of college credits that we articulate with higher ed institutions so that students can achieve college credit while they're still in our K-12 schools. And we're also multiplying the number of career-related learning experiences that students have access to. In order to create more career-related learning experiences for students, we've developed 6 career learning area advisory committees, and I'm going to introduce Brooke Nova for the first of a series of 6 presentations to update the board and the community regarding what those career learning areas are and how those advisory committees are engaging industry partners and community partners with school staff in order to create unprecedented opportunities for students. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Brooke Nova, who's our College and Career Pathways Coordinator, along with Mr. Morley, a teacher in Hillsboro, and some students to update you on the Industrial and Engineering Systems Career Learning Area Advisory Committee that's working to provide.
This month was really easy for me to select Industrial Engineering Systems because, one, it was Manufacturing Day on October 3rd, where many of our school district students toured all of our Hillsboro community to see the wonderful opportunities right here in our Hillsboro district, in our schools. The other was Youth Invasion happened last Thursday, where the city of Hillsboro opened their doors, and it was an amazing sight to see. I have some YAC members here tonight. Youth invade the Civic Center, where they learn so much about multiple careers, but a lot in industrial engineering systems as well. So it was very easy for me to select this pathway as the first one. Also, Tim's students and the project that he is working on, the timing of this as well was perfect. I do have a PowerPoint presentation in a video, so I just was wondering if the screen could come down. That would be great. But I will continue on as the screen comes down. So I think what's really important about industrial and manufacturing and engineering systems is there's such high demand, high wage jobs. And I was looking up statistics about this pathway. There are over, as July of 2014 from the Department of Labor, there are over 6 million jobs in construction, over 12 million jobs in manufacturing, and almost 300,000 jobs in mechanical engineering. Our programs within our school district are really preparing our students as people in those jobs right now are retiring. We're really working on preparing our youth to transition to those jobs. And as I said, there are so many in our own Hillsboro community. So every month what I will do is connect classroom to community in these presentations. Oh, the clicker. Thank you so much. So part of the presentations that will happen monthly is highlighting the programs of study that we have in our school district. So as you see right now, the ones in bold are our career technical education programs offered within each of our schools. Here are the dual credit offerings from Portland Community College. So as you look at the 2013 findings, you'll find that there are 327 students within our school district that took advantage of dual credit within industrial engineering systems. 791 credits were earned by students, and that's a savings of $72,772 just from this pathway alone in the year 2013-14. I want to introduce next Shirley Ariza, who is one of our Hillsboro School District interns. Part of my position is creating internship opportunities within our school district and within specifically our admin center. And Shirley is my intern who's been working on a project she's going to speak about.
Sorry, I'm really tired. I'm making a series of videos that are highlighted around the 6 career pathways, and they are really highlighting internships and how these experiences can help students along the way. I'll be talking a lot more about what I did when the arts and communication comes up, but for now, I think I would like to introduce Ashwin Dada, Lauren Stoll, and Ashley Wilbur.
I'm also wondering if we can play the video that Shirley has. The link is part of the presentation if it's, I think our school board has already seen it, but if we have a moment, this is the link right here. It's also featured though on our school district website under our college and career pathways link. Oh, there we go.
Is that the right one? Is that the one you want?
It is. So here is Shirley's first video that she has made. Play their sound.
I am working with the Information Services Department, and basically what I'm doing is there's a type of workshop, seminar type of thing called Eureka, and that is meant to train employees and make them better and more efficient and just better at the processes that they do in the city. And so what I'm doing is I'm gamifying that, and what that means is I'm making it into more of a video game style format, and that gives, it makes it more modern, and it gives employees incentives to get their work done. Well, I really like, so far what I've had is the experience of really working in an office setting and working with other adults, and so that's what I really hope to continue to gain, is that experience of working in a professional environment, which, I mean, really at school you don't get that, and really at this age you wouldn't get that anywhere else, so I think that's really something amazing that I've gotten from this internship, is that experience to really work in a professional environment.
So the Girls Data program is designed to introduce girls to science, technology, engineering, and math who have not been exposed to
internship has absolutely changed my experience on what I want to do outside of school. Before this, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I just thought, yeah, I don't know. Now, I'm looking to take my career in computer sciences and learn about stuff like that. Like, I really want to work in an office place like here, Hillsboro IS, and work like in Hillsboro IS.
The next path that we will highlight is agriculture, food, and natural resources. Part of the CLA work is continuing to build those partnerships and make sure that not only summer internships, but internships continue on throughout the school year. So all of these students here were summer interns, but as you can see, the impact is so meaningful to them as they have this wonderful classroom experience. I want to bring Tim and his students now up to talk about some of those classroom experiences, specifically from Century High School, so come on up. These students are going to stay to answer questions at the end, as well as Tim and his students here. Come on.
Did they get their toys?
Don't you worry, that's my
They need to get their
extra.
toys.
Yep,
So I'm
okay.
Tim Morley, and I teach technology at Century, and the PCC information is a little confusing because it says we offer drafting and technology, but within that, there's 10 credit hours in 2 levels of drafting, which we call RhinoCAD, but it's 3D modeling, laser cutting, 3D printing, CNC, Mastercam, and the most important one for tonight, and our newest, highest technology toy, which is really playing heavily into the medical field, and is laser scanning. And I'd like to introduce you to Cindy Cam and Christina Catabang. And they're in my classroom, they're the 2 smartest ones in the class. Well, actually I am. I'm smart enough to know that they're smarter than me, so I get out of their way and let them. But they know who controls the grade book. But in my 37 years of teaching, and the last 12 have been in technology, I have never worked on a high professional level. We have a $3,000 laser scanner, and it is industry quality. And if you don't believe it, go to Idaho State University's webpage and look at the scanning department, and they go around and scan for museums. Now they have 6 of them. We have 1. They have another $90,000 of equipment and software. But because of Perkins and some of my district money to buy a computer that could handle this, the software actually crashed an i7, which I didn't think was possible. Even a hex core, it crashed that too. That's part software. But these girls are actually working with paleontologists from the University of Oregon, University of Alaska Fairbanks, on an unidentified species of a fossil, and they will fill you in on it. Refer to their. And you are looking. They'll tell you what you're looking at.
Hi, so I'm Cindy and it's Christine, and we're senior students at Century High School. So this spring of this year, we were brought into the 3D scanning project by the previous group, jokingly named the A- team.
I had high standards.
But at the start of the school year, we were scanning just basic objects and just learning how to use the software. But when paleontologist and Professor Greg Carr brought in fossils to scan, the learning curve spiked dramatically. So on your desk in front of you is a scan palette, which is the roof of the mouth of a species.
You see the teeth in there too.
Yeah. Okay, so the fossils that we began scanning are the property of the University of Oregon. We began working on the fossil, which was nicknamed Bernie by the paleontologist Greg Carr. It's an unclassified species of Gladiosaur, which is a marine reptile. It's 230 million years old, and it's the oldest fossil found in Oregon.
Oldest bone. There's older fossils.
Oldest bone. At the time this animal was alive, Boise, Idaho was the coastline of the United States, and Oregon was just a series of volcanic islands. So we began working with a $3,000 Next Engine 3D scanner. So the first step we usually take is we find an object we want to scan, and then we find the contrasting background colors. So for example, if the fossil was pretty dark in color, so we would use a white background. And for the range, depending on the size of the object, we'd have to move it closer or further away. Then we would determine the amount of divisions or angles the object would be captured at, depending on how detailed the object was. Next, we double check the settings, and then we start scanning. And during scanning, we can use a tool called trim, and that's where we take off the excess parts that were scanned into the model, like the scanner itself and stuff like that. Then we would continue scanning the objects, like by turning it upside down or putting it on awkward angles to capture all the details and to be as precise as possible. And then we take all those separate scans and we align them all, usually by distinctive features on the object, and then we fuse it into one complete model. After a successful fuse, we would polish the object, which would basically fill all of the holes that the scanner missed. Next, then we would export it as an STL file, stereolithography. Then after exporting it as an STL, we were able to open it in different programs such as Rhino. And after that, we can then move it onto a 3D printer program, and then it's ready to print.
So how big was the cloud point?
Approximately 16 million points.
We had 16 million bits of information out in space that created this cloud point, and you had to put them all together.
And that's
what was crashing the machine.
Yeah, it crashed two different programs. So our goal for this project is to print this skull at the actual size, which is 18 inches. This is only 1/5 of what it actually is. And these two pieces alone took 7 hours to print.
So that was the first successful print. We only had half the skull. So we had to take half and then use modeling software to mirror it, to try to replicate, because the other stuff somewhere in the last 230 million years is...
Yeah, so other pieces the paleontologist brought in included a mandible, palate, and a brain case. Yeah, and he's hoping we could recreate the full skull so it could be as accurate as possible. We'd like to thank you for inviting us to speak today, and we'd like to invite you to Century High School to view our progress so far. The fossils, especially the skull, are going to be sent up to the University of Alaska in Fairbanks at the end of November for a graduate there to classify it. We scan Mondays and Fridays. We hope to see you at Century High School.
So we have our interns and our students have been in Tim's class if you have any questions. All of the students have also prepared small statements about their internships as well. So if you have any questions for them, they can also share a little bit about their internship experience at that time too.
Have any questions, Mr. Hayden? I just want to first, how long have you been in your position in this role? I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
Since July.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm
it
like...
seems like so long, so
I'm pleased because I'm just really truly so impressed with the work that you've been doing and building community, through this, because I really see it's really awesome to see, different high schools that come together and really, you inspire them, their leadership and, all of that. So I just wanted to, I'm really excited, the first of 6, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, and you guys are amazing. Really. Do you want to share anything about your internships with the city or no highlights?
Janine, go ahead, Janine. I just wanted to comment too that when you brought in student representation to the career college pathways, when, as a district, you decided to bring in that representation, I think everybody who participated from the city to the county, they love to hear that perspective. So I think that the more oftentimes when we're hearing about these programs, we're hearing from these students, it's a whole other perspective than hearing, sorry,
I think that with the best of intentions. Thank you.
But you know, I think that is really, it's wonderful. And I think that we get, again, it's that different lens of being able to see these programs, have their perspective on looking at these college and career pathways ideas and be able to say, what if, or you know what, I think it's fantastic. So the more opportunities that we can bring in students for other roles in our district is wonderful.
Okay, Glenn and then Monty.
First off, I'm really impressed with all you guys. Thank you for this. This is fantastic. This is really cool. I love stuff like this.
Another student made the case.
I'm sorry?
Another student in another class made the cases.
Fantastic. Well, thank you
I
guys.
didn't touch them.
And I also want to say I'm just impressed with all you students. I know, like with the Girls Get It, for example, both my daughters have gone through that program. So they're just good. So I really, really appreciate having you guys here tonight.
I'll just recall what Janine said. It's great to hear that these programs are making a difference, that maybe you didn't have a direction before and now you have a direction. That's great to hear. And I want to embarrass Ashley's mother real quick. She's out here, and she's been with the Girls Get It since the inception. When Savannah was running it, and now Ashley's running it. So we really appreciate you.
And I have a question, I don't know if any of you can answer, because I just don't know if in your high school career you've experienced it yet. The difference between your summer internship and what we used to do more traditionally was like a career day where maybe you went and sat and listened to information about a career for a couple hours. And I'm wondering if you've had an experience with both and which one, yeah?
Well, I've had a little experience with both. Just glad to say the internship was a lot more exciting. I learned a lot more. But I guess I could just put it into this little adage that I've been using. In a classroom or in a career day, in the traditional setting, you sit down, you listen, you nod, and you've learned. But what I've done with my internship, I felt like this is where I truly got my education. It's get up, go, show me what you've learned. It's really just putting your knowledge together, and that's where I felt where I got the building blocks.
See, Travis, if you could talk like that.
I know. Be grinning like this. All the time, it just be big grins for Travis. Internship with Travis, so you can see. No pressure. No pressure. And Uncle Bernie? Yeah. Is that Uncle Bernie, or is that the?
It's just Bernie.
Just Bernie. Oh, Bernie, not Uncle Bernie. Awesome.
So I just like thank you guys so much. It is a pleasure to hear the students speak, and really looking forward. Cindy and Christine, I'm gonna buy you lunch, and I want to see your scans. So I'll contact Mr. Morris.
You better be careful. These girls have expensive tastes.
Anything off the dollar. Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate it. Well done.
Poor Travis, he's just on tonight. So next, Travis is going to walk us through math and science adoption updates.
I'm scared to get up here. That usually Shirley who's making fun of me. It's a good change. Math and science adoption, switching gears, we're in a process, we're late in the process, progressed in the process of adopting new materials, proposing an adoption for new materials in math, and we're at the very beginning of our process for looking at our science program K-12. So I want to provide an update for both of those tonight. Dinah, there is a slide, I had a couple of slides to share this information. The standard protocol for adopting a curriculum starts with the gathering of a study team. So we've been in a math study team for many years now. We started with our elementary adoption. We did a middle school adoption, and now we're late in the game with our high school math adoption. The standard procedure is to do a comprehensive program evaluation, analyzing our strengths and weaknesses as a program, looking at what standards we teach, in this case the Common Core for math. Thank you. Oh, I get to control it. Thanks. After you identify the standards that you teach to, you go through a process of identifying a course sequence or a guaranteed and viable curriculum for K-12, in this case for math and then for science. You identify best practices for instruction. You investigate that with students, teachers, district administrators, parents, community members, all at the table, and only then do you come to the board with a recommendation about the adoption of materials. What I wanted to share tonight is that in terms of the math study team journey with our high school math team, we've learned a lot and the game has gotten more complicated. The board knows that we've investigated the implementation of technology within our high school math classrooms, and last spring we did a what we call action research, which is a common practice for teachers. We take a span of time and we implement something new, and we do pre and post assessment, and we try to figure out what works. We call that evidence-based best practice. So our action research last spring involved a Chromebook lab at each of our 4 comprehensive high schools. And what we learned from that action research is that most students and teachers see technology as vital to the high school math classroom right now. When we start talking about college and career preparedness, especially in math and technology and science, we see digital technology as part of that in today's world. Our students in the Citizens Curriculum Committee and on the math study team have said we needed to have those tools yesterday. So thanks for catching up, grown-ups. And so we as adults are trying to make some difficult decisions about how to invest wisely in both paper materials and digital materials to make sure that we have those learning experiences for students. We also learned that open educational resources have changed the game in terms of what's available for students. In our data from the action research last spring, we learned that open educational resources and digital materials, especially in multiple languages, gave students access to curriculum in a way that they hadn't been able to access it before. Even when they were sick, we had a student who was out a month who was able to keep up because her teacher was using Schoology and had the activities posted, and she was able to access those online, just to give one example. Over the summer, we partnered with the Oregon Department of Education, and we looked at digital materials right next to paper materials with the ODE-approved rubric for analyzing math materials. Our study team over the summer identified that the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt AGA series, the Algebra, Geometry, and Algebra 2 series, was the finest of the published materials, mostly, I think, because it was a digital-first curriculum product from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. They do have a paper textbook that's giant and looks familiar, but what they have online is that same set of materials, but it also has adaptive technology that helps students wherever they are get to that next spot in terms of meeting math standards. Right now, we're piloting simultaneously that top contender, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt's AGA materials, both in print and digitally, with Chromebooks. We also have a teacher using iPads just to see how that goes. We're right next to that, we're piloting Schoology and a curated set of materials for algebra, geometry, algebra 2 that teachers have created within that learning management system. If any of this sounds complicated, it is to me as well, and I'm willing to talk about it in more depth, whatever the questions that you have right now. What's important is that I want to share that in terms of our guiding principles for this current adoption, and I think all future adoptions, is that tech-enhanced learning is on the table. We, as responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars, need to look at technology not only as a college and career readiness and a best practice, but also right now as a potential fiscally responsible way of delivering curriculum to students. We've looked at the cost of an average high school student's backpack if it's fully loaded with textbooks, and if a student's taking calculus right now, one textbook costs us $250. The Chromebook costs us $280 right now. So if you just swapped out calculus and a Chromebook, you get the math. it makes sense. Just because it's economically viable isn't the best reason to go with technology. I'd like to stay focused on tech-enhanced learning. And so when we share our findings in January, February as a math study team, we'll be focusing on that, the practices we've learned about, including how to use technology in the classroom. Stewardship of taxpayer dollars is a value that I can't say enough because in a traditional math adoption or a curriculum adoption, we look at X number of dollars for X number of textbooks and workbooks. And right now, the cost of technology is still high, and I want to be really transparent with the board around what we've learned in terms of the hardware and the software, and then those free, quote unquote, free open educational resources that we looked at. And to the end of being transparent, I want to preview what the board and community can expect from us in February. We're shooting for February as a date to publish the findings of that team. Beth cooked this up for me. Thanks, Beth. This would be a brochure that would tell you all the details about what we've learned as a study team, and we've been amassing this information along the way. So a table of contents would cover the policy and procedure that defines our adoption processes, but then we'd also, what's really been a learning experience for me in this process is listening to community members and hearing what it is that their concerns and hopes are around the way curriculum adoption is going. And so I just want to highlight a couple of these things that you can expect from us. We're going to talk about equity and access. Our students with special needs and our students of color, our English language learners specifically, are underserved in terms of our current math programs. And we're talking as a team about how to meet the needs of multilingual students, students of color in our district, and also meet the requirements of accessible instructional materials, or AIM, for our students with special needs. And we think digital technology is part of the answer for all of that. We'll give you research and evidence that shows that in this document. I also want to highlight for the board that digital citizenship and safety have come up. We had parents on the Citizens Curriculum Advisory Committee tell us that they don't let their students have screen time at home because of the impact of too much screen time on the developing brain. And so they asked us to do research about, at each age level, you know, from toddler through adolescent to adults, what's the impact of getting too much information or spending too much time online? What's the difference between active screen time and passive screen time, like just watching the tube or using an app to do some geometry? And so we want to come to the board with some of our findings around that as part of our proposal. And only then, I think, at the end of this report, we're looking at providing our recommendation in terms of what's looking right now like a blended approach to curriculum adoption. Some standard curriculum, whether it's digital or paper, and then an investment in technology tools so students and teachers can access math content that way in classrooms and maybe at home. So we'll see. Before, let's see how to do this gracefully or clunkily. The opportunities for you guys to engage. I wanted to thank the board already for the interactions that you've had, either via the CCAC or yourselves out in classrooms looking at how this looks. I want to tell you that we're going to have opportunities for the board and the Citizens Curriculum Advisory Committee to visit classrooms where these pilots are taking place. We're also going to have, we have parents on our math study team who said we should have informational nights for families and community at each of our high schools. So we're planning those, and we'll invite you to those. And also, if any board member wants to just go one-on-one and learn about what we're doing, please call me, and I'll be working with Val to set up those opportunities for you to get engaged with the process. Before I transition to science and catch you up there, I want to introduce Stephanie Blair. Stephanie, if you could just wave. She's our new teacher on special assignment for secondary math. We stole her from Beaverton, and she's a state leader. She actually puts on a conference for math leaders each year in Oregon. So she's been with us only for 4 months, something. 2 months? Seems okay. Well, she's done a lot of work in that. And so she's providing just an incredible amount of expertise in math, and also along with a team from our technology department, including Dawn and Nabil and Ryan and Chris, who I think you've met. This has become a real math meets tech team. So I just wanted to say thank you to Stephanie and make sure that you guys know who she is. You'll learn more about her, hopefully through the winter before we make our recommendation. I want to touch really quickly on science adoption. It's in the beginning stages where we take a look at our achievement data, not only OAKS data, but ACT, our enrollment data for our higher level science courses. And under Sandy Grinnell's leadership, Sandy, please wave. We stole her from Arizona. Sandy's a state leader. Also, in her short time in Oregon, she's been involved with Oregon Department of Education in developing a rubric for judging science materials. She is our team captain on Science K-12. We're looking at, with the team, again, of students, parents, teachers, leaders, community members, at what our current student achievement data are in science. And we're setting some goals for ourselves, especially around equitable outcomes for students in science, and also addressing the need for materials and support in science. We have the early commitment from the Hillsboro Schools Foundation to try to get our elementary teachers some of the hardware they need to teach science in a hands-on way with students. And so they're working with our science study team. Next steps for the science study team next month and in December are to bring a student panel to the table and share our data review with them, our assessment of strengths and weaknesses, and ask our students, current and former students, why? What could we do better as adults to serve you as students? We want to get behind, out in front of some of the disparities in achievement that we see in science among populations of students, and we're going to ask them directly. We're also engaging with regional districts to figure out the best course sequence for science. There's some hot controversy around how you deliver, especially high school course sequence, whether you start with biology or whether you start with physics, and some of you know that. And I invite you to weigh in on that conversation. We're going to learn from our partners regionally. So those are quick updates around both of those study teams, and I invite any questions that the board has regarding where we're headed and how those processes work.
Glenn and then Janine.
Just a quick comment, actually, regarding the thing you got from the parents about the screen time. You know, because I work with computers all day long, and I'm not engaging as a business analyst with my clients around my company. You know, I'm on a computer all day long, and I can tell you it's nothing like what I see those kids doing in those classrooms. I mean, they're working together, they're totally focused on it, they're engaged, they're having a great time, you know, they're working in groups. So, I mean, it's not like, I think, the way that I think it was growing up using a computer. So, and it definitely doesn't replace the teacher. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing, and I know you're going to come up with great stuff for that, and I'm appreciative is required. But anyway, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Janine?
I think my comments are going to come more along the lines of where we had our technology tour recently, and we visited Hill High and Free Orchards and Evergreen. And the teachers that we met with at Evergreen Middle School, Josiah Cotton, Mr. Kotke, and Mr. Sherwood. And the things that they're doing in their classroom with their curriculum and technology and working together is so incredibly impressive. I remember Mr. Kotke saying that he had a student that had missed a significant chunk of time, and she came back to class and she was on track with everybody else, because he does a lot of he has a website set up so students can go to it for information, and they can see his videos of his presentations. He doesn't sit in front of a classroom and say, like the Ferris Bueller, you know, like that type of thing. He is like out there, he's engaging, and he makes these videos that the students then can watch. And I just think it's really impressive when you see all the different teachers and what they're doing to innovate and bring technology, integrate technology with what they're teaching is impressive. So I thank the teachers for putting in the time and the efforts, and I appreciate the support that's given to them as well, because it's these kids watching them in that science class. It was like if they had little neon lights or light bulbs above their head, it'd be like ding, 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 because they were engaged. And so
It makes me think it's important when I came to this conversation, I made the assumption that more technology meant less interaction somehow. And what I see in Mr. Kotke's class in that flipped model is that if students can get that information outside of class time becomes way more interactive. And so,
well, and he was like posting those videos and doing that. Sorry, I'm all jazzed.
Yeah.
And he was then had the opportunity to go around and as students were working at their own pace and doing more individualized learning, he was then going around and giving the support needed to the students that really needed the extra support. And so, it was exciting.
I think along the same lines, I think it's exciting that the parents are asking questions, you know, when you're going and doing the research, and just sharing with Glenn years ago. I did some work years ago in the 90s on media literacy in Spanish-speaking communities and TV usage and screen time, but, you know, wasn't, but a lot of what you said between the active and passive viewing and how we use it is a springboard for learning. And it's really what happens when you close your book or turn off the TV and turn off the computer and engage in that. So I think it's exciting that the parents can come with questions and, you know, do homework and bring it back. And this is a big thing. So I know it's, you know, taking its steps, but I think you're doing a very thorough job.
Thanks. We're learning a lot.
And I just do the last shout out to Mr. Kotke, since we all visited him. He has a Donors Choose right now that is less than $300 away from completing his technology in his classroom set. So if you feel so inclined, Donors Choose.
Only $241, I think, remains.
Small amount.
It really does. Got to be fully funded.
Any other questions for Travis? Awesome. Thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
And next is strategic plan performance update.
All right, you'll remember that in August we discussed our focus areas for the strategic plan. We have the same 5 areas that we've had for the last 8 years: instruction, engagement, excellent facilities, and safety. And several times throughout this year you'll receive an update on our progress. But what I wanted to show you this evening was not to go through all of the minutiae that we covered, which I know you'll be disappointed. But if you look at the website, you'll see that under the strategic plan area, you can click on that, and we've got the broad focus areas for each of the strategic plan areas. And then if you click on that, you can then see the more specifics. And this time around, we didn't go as in-depth or as fine in detail as we did last year, because I had the sense that you weren't really reading it anyway. So wanted to put it in a format that was much simpler. So what you'll see here is that there'll be 4 updates throughout the year, and there's just some broad bullet points on each of the programs that we have. So really that's all I wanted to draw your attention to tonight, is to let you know the format that we're going to be using, let you know that it is simpler and hopefully more meaningful as you try to absorb it.
Anyone have questions or comments for Mike?
And it is simpler.
Good.
And I love that it's on the main website. I think it's very clear and transparent for parents and community members to see what we're working on and how we're working towards hitting all those goals by the end of the school year.
One thing I would add is just for a tool for evaluation purposes, is to be able to show what standard for your evaluation, what standard this falls under, so that we can look at this and here's a great example of standard 3, great example of standard 4.
Gotcha. All right.
Any other questions or comments for him?
And you guys know that the full report is, if you click on the title, you can get all the detail.
Hyperlinks throughout. Yeah.
So kudos, Mike and Kevin, thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Next is our enrollment update report. Debbie.
Yes, thank you. Every year we report to the board the October enrollment, and so you have before you a summary of the enrollment that we had on the 1st of October. Just generally, for this year, our enrollment on October 1st was 20,719 students. You saw it was a slight decrease. It's really not statistically a really big decrease on that. Actually, we would consider that pretty flat enrollment for the year. And you can see the areas of growth. It looks like in kindergarten we were just a little bit. 1 through 6 is where we saw some increase. 1st through 6th grade, we saw some increase, and then some decreases in the 9 through 12th grades. But if you look over the 10-year enrollment, For the district, we actually have increased over the last 10 years over 7% in our enrollment. We've had 2 years of what we would call flat enrollment in that, but we have had a continual increase in enrollment over the last 10 years, which we would predict would continue for the district. If you look at the data on race, it's on the second page. I think what we pick up out of this is that over the last 4 years for the district, we have seen a slight increase in our Hispanic population and a slight decrease in our white population. And those are the biggest shifts that we've seen, which we look at the diversity of our community, and that's what we're seeing in our schools. So are there any questions on that?
Anyone? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. And next is our annual risk management report.
Yeah, the next two reports are recaps of the 2013-14 school year. So the first is the annual risk management report, and this is an opportunity to point out that generally, both in terms of liability claims, property claims, and workers' comp claims, we've been doing a very good job of managing those risks. The premiums have increased very slightly, very modestly, primarily in the area of workers' comp, and that is a function of payroll. It's a percentage of payroll. So as payroll goes up, our workers' comp rates go up. But the workers' comp mod, that is our comparison to the rest of like industries, is still well below 1.0, which is the average. So we're at about 88% of the average. So doing a very good job of continuing to stay on top of all of our student and staff accidents, have very active district safety and emergency management systems teams, safety teams in all of our buildings. So just, I think all in all, a very positive report. I'd be happy to answer questions.
So maybe I don't understand the details here. I was looking on page 66, this table of payrolls and premiums. It looks like this year the payroll went up about 10%, but the premium went up on the order of 20% or more. Is that some reason for that?
It's a function of both the types of payroll. So as we hire more, for instance, bus drivers, which we did this last year, we pay a higher premium for those types of positions than we do for clerical and teaching positions. Again, it's also, we did have a slight increase in our experience rating from 0.87 to 0.88, but that's...
Maybe you should explain the experience rating. That's something it's a phrase we use all the time.
Yeah, it's called an experience mod or modification. Basically, they compare our experience over the last 3 years versus the rest of the industry. And as you can see, back in 2006, 2007, our experience was well in excess of the industry standard. We were paying 113% of the industry average for our experience rating. We're now significantly below that, and it's a comparison of not only the number of incidents, but also the severity of those incidents, how long those folks are out, how much time loss we're paying, and compared that to the rest of the industry. So we're significantly below the industry average.
Any other questions? Okay. And then the next one is the support services report.
This is a report that we do for 3 of our support services, facilities, transportation, and food services. And really it's a recap of facilities expenditures, the types of maintenance that we've done over the last year. And then for nutrition services, the total numbers of meals that we served, which were actually down last year slightly. We went from 2.56 million meals being served in 2012-13 to 2.53 million meals served in 2013-14. I asked Cindy Longway for an explanation of why that would be, because we've got more kids and we're serving less meals. And her response was that decreases in meal participation is due largely to the new meal pattern requirements. The decreases have been experienced all around the country. These requirements for whole grain breads, pastas, sodium and calorie restrictions, portion size, and the increased cost of the meal due to these changes have led to a decrease in meal participation nationwide. So, again, that's the transportation component. We drove a total of 2.3 million miles last year, 95 regular bus routes, 43 sped bus routes, only 28 bus accidents. So, again, lots of information. I'm happy to answer questions.
You should clarify accident doesn't mean something big and scary.
Correct. That can be anything from clipping a mirror on a tree or something. Or in a lot of cases, it's our bus being stationary and being hit.
Right, and the bus might be fine with the cars.
Very true.
Anyone have questions on the support services report? Yeah, come on.
I'll just make one quick comment on the 29,000 meals less that we serve. I think what jumped out to me was that the kids don't like the food as much. I mean, you said it without saying that, but that's really, from what you said without saying, that's kind of like where I get. But that's what's given to us from the federal government. So
yeah, we have very strict requirements as to what we can and can't serve and what the nutritional value of those meals has to be.
All right. Thank you very much. Lauren, thank you so much for staying. Thank you. I'm glad we didn't have any questions for you.
You would have if you hadn't.
I know, see?
And Adam, you're not quite off the hook. You have one more financial report, please.
As I reported at our last meeting, we had a very challenging September payroll. I'm happy to report that I think we have addressed all of the staff issues around that. We had several staff, lots of staff who had a fee associated with this last payroll. We've been processing those, getting everybody reimbursed. I don't believe anybody's out any money at this point, or won't be by the time we get done processing all of those. I'm happy to report that the October payroll went smoothly. No problems. So, right? No problem. Yeah. But it was a great learning opportunity for all of our staff in payroll in the business office, and they came through in fine colors. And again, our staff out in the buildings was fantastic, very understanding.
Do you know what our total cost of that was?
I don't yet. The fees were between $8 and $15 for those folks who got it. It was a wire transfer fee because of the way we had to put the money into their accounts. Lots of our staff, there's hundreds of them who had that wire transfer fee. I don't have a total yet.
That's a bargain, because it happened at my office and it was a $40 wire fee that they had to reverse.
His department though did work with most of the banks and was able to get a majority of that waived.
Yeah,
so.
right.
Yes.
Nice work.
Yeah.
Feel free to list those banks that didn't.
It wasn't necessarily a bank, U.S. bank. It was individual branches have the authority to waive or not to waive. So.
Okay. Now we're going to move into a series of first readings on policy. And Adam, I told you you're almost done after.
Right.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So in front of you is policy EBBB, which is the Injury and Illness Reports policy. Some fairly minor changes here in the definition of an injury. We're no longer referring to it as a work-related injury. It's an injury or an illness sustained by an employee while in the actual performance of their duty as an employee. We've also changed the position that those reports go to. We no longer send them to the safety officer. We're sending them to our risk manager, which has been our practice. But we just want to make sure we had the right position listed. Beyond that,
Pretty straightforward.
much change.
Were these related to state mandated changes or just our?
The work-related piece was the change from safety officer to risk manager is specific to our district.
Eric?
Just had a question, just reading this now, this actual performance of the duty, does that mean that if an employee is on a smoke break but slips on an oil slick at the school sidewalk, he can't be compensated? Or?
That's a good question. I believe if they're on a district paid break, that they probably are going to be covered.
And it's your grants.
That's been our experience.
Just like if you're in a grocery store and you sit down.
I assume Maureen would be screaming if that was an issue.
I'm sure she would not be alone.
And so a reminder for all of these that when they're on graded, you can send email questions or comments to whoever presented them to us tonight. Thank you, Adam. And the next one is policy GBA. Samantha. Oh, I didn't see it back there.
Hide back there.
Yeah.
Peeps. So before you is the first read of policy GBA, equal employment opportunity, and there are minor revisions that were recommended by OSBA, specifically around legal references and the footnote regarding veterans preference and disabled veterans preference and the point system that's established when an organization goes through an application review and process. So fairly minor, and we've taken all of OSBA's recommendations into account.
Any more questions or comments? Great. Thank you very much. See you again in a month.
See you in a month.
Say it with such excitement.
See you in a month.
All right, Connell, let's see if we can hold it down.
Right. Two policies, the first reading for policy GCDA, GDDA, criminal background checks, and there's only one slight change, shall become may. And this will allow us to have some flexibility and to cover the cost of criminal records checks and fingerprinting for volunteers. And we have that discretion as the district.
Any questions? Yeah, Glenn?
So today, when you do like a background check, because you have to do it, you can volunteer on a lot of these different things, there isn't a cost to the parents, to have this background check.
Typically, no, there isn't a cost for them. We really try to make it easy so that they can get in to volunteer,
right.
But we also, want to make sure that we have safety protocols in place.
So, so basically it's our policy right now to pay for it.
Yeah, but we make.
I should say it's our practice.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, it's related, maybe the same question. Is this a precursor to opening the door to charging for the background checks for volunteers? Or what?
I don't think that that's something that we want to put into practice, but I think changing shall to may gives us a little more leeway in terms of what, we may want to do around that.
But that's not something we've discussed. It's not the plan, if that's what you're asking.
It's not step one.
No.
Right,
it's not.
shall. Step two.
Any other questions on this one?
Yeah, sorry.
All right, let's hear the next one then.
Okay, so the next one has to do with licensed evaluations for administrators, policy CCG. And this is the first reading, and so these are the OSBA recommendations as connected to Senate Bill 290. So you can see through there, there's some distinct changes that OSBA is recommending for language.
Questions on this one? And it's all just total run with the came right out of 290, right? And you're already sort of in the process of that?
Right.
Okay. All right.
Is every 2 years a policy issue? Or is it a practice?
Well, it's now you mean that we evaluate every 2 years?
Instead of every 1 year?
It's now been legislated. Instead, the minimum would be every 2 years.
Did your question about the?
I do, but it's
He's like
two
4 minutes.
policies.
2 policies back.
Go ahead, Matt. We'll let you go back.
Okay, just real quick, and it doesn't have to be answered tonight, but the equal opportunity, the equal employment opportunity policy, the footnote, a veteran is eligible at any time after discharge. Now, is that honorable or dishonorable, or it doesn't say? And you can answer that at the next meeting?
No, there's language around that.
Okay. You don't have to do it now, but.
Okay.
An update?
Yeah, I'm up.
We're like in an update?
Yeah, let's do an
Yeah.
update.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah, I have it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And the next one is Travis Policy IGAI, and this one we have 2 audience members who'd like to speak as well. So I'll have Travis introduce the policy revisions, and then we'll take the audience time and then
Okay.
comments. and board members.
So the recommended updates to policy IGAI are a response to OSBA's recommended language changes. OSBA recommends the changes based on the Oregon State Board of Education's revision of the OAR regarding human sexuality education. So I went back into OSBA's recommendation, the recommendations that you see in the policy IGAI, and I cross-referenced for my own peace of mind with the updates that the state board did to the law, the rule, and I can tell you that, pretty much word for word. In fact, I could share it with you if you wanted to know more detail. Each item of the way that the state board updated the OAR is what's reflected in OSBA's recommendation for a policy update. So I'd be happy to answer questions regarding the details of the language in the policy update. But I also wanted to add a note after researching this with my team that the health standards for the state of Oregon are based on this OAR regarding human sexuality education, but they also align with OARs regarding comprehensive guidance counseling, prevention education for drugs and alcohol, and harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and intimidation laws and rules. So what you see in this policy has some to do with sex ed as we traditionally think of it, but it also has to do with creating safe environments for students to learn, keeping them safe, giving them access to information, teaching students to respect others, respect themselves, and create a safe learning environment in schools. So that's kind of my essential learning from going through this update, is that those things are incorporated into the basic health education pieces too. So happy to take any questions now or during the
And I'll have you hold so that if in case we have questions after audience have comment, if you don't mind, Travis. So I'd like to invite up Kimberly Scott first, and then after Kimberly will be Lori. And Kimberly, you just need to come on up, you come on here. And just talk to her here. Oh, yeah. And then,
formal.
I know. And if you could just start with your name and your address, please.
Sure. Kimberly Scott, 363 Northeast 16th Avenue, Hillsboro. I'm just a parent. I feel kind of new to Hillsboro. We were in Vernonia for the last 10 years or so. This is our 3rd year. It's been really awesome to see a big district like this and all the things that go on, and appreciate what the school board does and the ongoing volunteer hours that you put in. It really is immense. But what kind of just got me here, motivated to get here. I volunteered in the classroom for the last 20 years. I have a 20-year-old every week. And when we moved here, I was pretty exhausted, so I haven't been doing that. But what really motivated me to come in tonight was I have a 7th grader, so at Pointer, and I have a high school student, and I have an elementary student. It was the sex education or the health education that happened in 7th grade that kind of just popped up. I didn't know about it. I'm pretty involved. And it was just really upsetting. My son was in PE, and then he came home. I'll just tell you my story just really quick. PE is his favorite. I have 5 girls and 1 son, and he really loves physical stuff, and it's really fun to see that. So he was pretty upset when he got home. I said, well, PE is your last class. He's always happy when he comes home. And they had started this My Future, My Choice program, which I was unfamiliar with. I had never heard of it. I didn't think health was, I've since learned that health is part of the PE program. Now they're just implementing them together. So I looked it up, and the more I delved into the curriculum, the video segments, the more disturbed I became. I called the counselor, and I called and sent emails out and had Paul removed from the class until I got more details. So I then heard from Eric, who doesn't know me, but I saw him say, come to the board meeting if you have questions and concerns. So that's why I'm here tonight. And I did go through a lot of the 90 page, or 10, 15 pages of the wording for this health education, and it's pretty overwhelming. There's just so much language in here that is vague and I feel like inappropriate or hard for me to understand. Like, where do I even start with that? Some of the stuff that's in here about age appropriate, like where is this coming from? What I feel like Paul was exposed to just in one class was not age appropriate, and I was very upset that I wasn't notified and that they didn't have an alternate set up for him, so now he's just sitting in the counseling office. And this just happened last week, so I'm still kind of like trying to catch up. But it really motivated me to talk to some other parents that have been in Hillsboro for a lot longer than I have. They didn't know about this curriculum. They'd heard of it, but they hadn't done any research. They couldn't be here tonight, so I'm kind of, voicing some concerns for some other parents. So in this first reading, I guess I need to do more contributing. I don't know how it works with the board, but I feel like there's so many open-ended questions in here that saying that it just promotes abstinence, it's not true. What they're saying to the kids, and then all my questions, I mean, it may not be relevant to what the board has, but the biggest things were the videos they're being shown weren't age appropriate, in my opinion. The peers who are leading these discussions, these mixed gender small group discussions from the high school, I don't know who's training them, or they're not certified teachers, and they're in there teaching this curriculum to the 7th graders. I didn't feel that was appropriate. I don't know how that became part of it. There were so many things that alarmed me that I really felt like I needed to come and get further into it and see how you guys handled it, or who I need to approach in that way. Because I feel like some things just, they're wrong and they're inappropriate, and we need to protect the innocence of our kids. So that's my statement.
So, and we're just debating because of policies going on the 30-day review, we're the best place who to have you connect with to share concerns as you.
Sure. We'd love to get your contact information, and Travis would be the appropriate contact, and not to take it out of the public setting, but really to give you an opportunity to have a discussion with someone that's going to be immersed in this over the next 30 days or so. And then we would be happy to share that information back to the rest of the board as well. You're welcome to come back as well in 30 days. But
yeah, and that'd be great. So I can get this, besides just printing out the curriculum from the website, from the state government, from Oregon.gov, printing out the curriculum, I really don't know what's being taught, because there's so many open-ended things in this curriculum.
Yeah. And
so I'd like to know how to access that, and how to get it out to other parents who are also busy and overwhelmed and didn't know this was happening, and they've been in the district. So thank you.
Yeah.
And the next one is Lori Porter.
Hi, I'm Lori Porter. I'm at 7700 Southwest Everett Place in Beaverton. And I have been a public school teacher for 23 plus years. I taught in Hillsboro here, actually at Evergreen, and I loved it. I love education, I love teaching. I'm a director of a group called Parents' Rights in Education, and I am here on behalf of a number of parents and guardians who are concerned about what the Oregon Department of Education is deeming healthy sexuality. And there are concerns, not just parents, but also teachers and school board members. I'm actually getting calls from people across the state about this. I've been researching these policies for the last 4 years. And I pulled together a letter pretty quickly to you guys with questions. I know I don't have enough time to elaborate on them, but I'll give you each one of these. But I'll just read a couple things and then have a few more comments. But these standards and benchmarks, as was mentioned, leave much to interpretation and ideology. And without clearly defined parameters and review by a citizen curriculum committee, they may not reflect the values of this community. And I just have to say that what I've seen the Oregon Department of Education deem healthy sexuality is very shocking, and what they're endorsing to be presented to Oregon students. For example, watching porn together, mutual masturbation, dry humping, sexting. I know this is shocking, but you have to understand I've been researching this for 4 years. Sexting, using cybersex to explore different identities, classroom discussions about pleasure, and quote, healthy relationships. And clearly, some of these topics are not age appropriate and don't reflect the values of many parents in this community. So some of my questions are about what does skill-based mean? What's that going to look like in an elementary classroom, in a middle school classroom, in a high school classroom? What is best practice, and who gets to decide, or age appropriate? And what kind of boundaries are going to be put around some of these topics? And as was mentioned, very vague. I mean, just in scanning over this quickly, I came up with 35 questions that really need to be answered, the terms defined. And how are parents going to be notified? In a month ahead of time, a week ahead of time, a day ahead of time? What is the plan of instruction? And how's it going to be played out in the classroom? I know you guys are volunteers, but I know that you work for the residents of the community, not the ODE, not the OSBA, and these policies that I've been researching from the OSBA and from the ODE are very complex and very vague, and I really urge you to slow down and not rush through this. And I'm getting this information and this concern across the state from school board members who are seeing this same exact thing verbatim. And I really am concerned for students, for parents, and even for teachers who are placed sometimes in a very uncomfortable position as far as what's going to be taught or communicated in the classroom. Thank you.
So I'd really like to thank Lori and Kimberly for coming and speaking up about this. Usually when we have these policies before the board, we intentionally try to make them as vague as possible to give the staff a lot of leeway in how they implement them. But I think it sounds like from what we're hearing here, you might have gone too far in that direction with this policy, right? Because Travis, you mentioned that this is sort of the language, the minimal language required by the state to comply with the law. But there's nothing that stops us.
Actually, what I said was that it's just straight from the law.
Okay,
it is the law.
So this is the language from the law. But the point is that we can make the policy more specific to clarify some of these things. For example, the skills-based instruction. I mean, we've all heard horror stories about classes where they make, 6th grade students put condoms on cucumbers and things like that. It sounds to me like skills-based instruction could mandate that. So if it doesn't, right, if there's something sort of more mild that this means, it might make sense to spell that out in the policy here, because it sounds like we might have gone too far in some of these programs that are being implemented.
Glenn?
Okay, so I'm one of those, I have some concerns as well, but so I'm going to be communicating with you offline on this because I feel like I really need to do, for the community's sake, a much deeper dive into what exactly is taught. But I did have just one quick question about a particular thing you're describing in this, like point 14, where it's talking about, consent is an essential component. And then talks about and encourage active student bystander behavior. I didn't quite get, first off, what that is, and how does that have anything to do with, healthy sexual behavior? So, just curious what that means.
It's defined in the law.
Yeah.
Find it here. It was about intervening on behalf of a peer when you see something unsafe happening. And it was a good example of one of the instances of that sort of comprehensive guidance counseling piece overlaid with health education. So, shoot, I had it underlined for myself because I caught on to it too, that was, what is a bystander behavior?
That's all right, we're going to have plenty of questions.
So sorry, from what you said before, so are you guys going to meet offline and?
Yeah, Travis and I will get together and we'll talk about some of the concerns that have been mentioned here.
Yep. I have some concerns because I'm thinking along the lines of, an example from what you had said before from another policy, Eric, when you talked about getting real specifics and having real specific language in a policy. And at one point, I don't even remember what it was that we were talking about, but you were like, the importance is in the details of the AR, which is totally true. So I think that sometimes when they're looking at policy revisions, they go by a law, and the OSBA is a group of lawyers that are doing this too. And then, so it's suggested language, but it is making sure that the specifics and the direction that is looked at is more in the AR versus.
Yeah, I think that's a technicality. I mean, if we say we want to make this the policy, but Mike's going to come up with a really good AR and present it at the meeting to address these concerns, I think that is just as good from my point of view.
I can say I appreciate the feedback, and we sent a letter to high schools last year regarding notifying families of that we teach health education and giving families explicit language that we respect their values and their customs and their family, and that they always have the right to, first of all, contact the teacher and learn exactly what's being taught, and second of all, know their rights in terms of allowing students to opt out or have a replacement experience. So I'd be happy to learn how we could provide that information better to our community members, because part of this is driven by legal requirements around health education, but that doesn't mean that we can't do a better job at hearing concerns and communicating back to our community. So I appreciate that.
Was that sent to the middle school?
I don't, the letter I'm thinking of was specifically for our high school.
Monty and then Glenn.
I would just suggest maybe we put this on a longer read time than 30 days to allow members of the community to weigh in.
Is it one that has a time to do it? That would be my only question, is sometimes when we get them, there's that deadline of when the state has done something.
So it's the Division 22 assurances, which has to be done by...
Well, I think Stu said it's actually January.
Okay, so yeah, we can...
So we can look at that. Glenn, did you have a comment?
So I just wanted to respond to Janine. I do generally actually agree with you that we shouldn't be trying to be very specific with policies, and we should allow Mike to do his job and the ARs. But I've said before that sometimes the board does need to make some specific things, because there's a difference between what a lawyer says and what the community wants. Lawyers are there to give us guidance and advice, but they are not necessarily great policy writers. That's what public servants do with advice from the community. So I'm totally comfortable with, if it's appropriate, tightening a policy somewhat and putting specific language in there that would guide the ARs more generally than what, or I'm sorry, more specifically than what our lawyer would tell us. That's part of the sausage process, making process, of building good public policy.
And one question.
In my opinion.
That same thing I don't want to answer now, but if we're thinking about it, because we do normally have a form. I remember them going back to 5th grade of kind of opt in, opt out if you want your students to participate in that. I think we should continue that practice. Meaningful experience if you are opting out of that curriculum. It would be great if we were thinking about that, like what does that look like? I have no idea how many families choose that, but there's a more meaningful alternative.
It will. Oh, sorry.
There, no, at the elementary level, I've been through the, being able to parent preview of the video or the material that's planned for delivery at the elementary level. So it goes up to higher levels and more interaction and a wider diversity in presentation skills or styles or whatever. What are the mechanisms for the parents to have an equal level of understanding of not just the theory of what material is covered, but the actual presentation techniques and methods and content? Are there equivalent parent preview events to give a meaningful view of what actually happens and how well, and then us monitoring the process so that it actually happens by those methods, so that parents can have confidence that what's being said and how it will be said is accurate?
Thanks, I'd have to research that. The ones that I know of are the 5th and 6th grade ones because I worked at W.L. Henry's. I'd have to investigate the access to parent nights or information sessions across schools and see if we have the same practice.
I want to say I remember one at middle school.
I think the issue is going to be
They said it
notification in advance notice, that kind of thing. Because those opportunities have been available. But if parents don't know about them, then it kind of defeats the purpose.
It's not just material, because it appears to be
right, I understand.
Presentation and...
We don't do that for any other class, so we don't.
This is unlike most other classes in regards to how the community feels about it, so...
Yeah, we can dig into that for you. I think one of the big questions that Travis and I have to answer, it has to do with what's legally required and where do we have to move on, and we can bring that information back.
Okay. And if you guys think of questions or comments between now and then, you can forward them to Travis. Thanks, Travis.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, if you're not off the... Just noticed and dismissed it. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, one more. Policy ICBBA.
All right, so the Oregon School Boards Association is recommending a revision also to a couple of our talented and gifted policies. So what we've done is added some new language to the policy, but I wanted to briefly comment that what you see in at the top of policy IGBBC is sort of a mission statement from the Hillsboro School District regarding how it is that we provide for our students who are talented and gifted. We're not trying to shoot for the bare minimum on this policy. What we're trying to do is make a statement that we're putting resources towards serving a traditionally underserved group of students, which is our talented and gifted students. They have unique academic and social emotional needs, and the statement speaks to that. What you see also below are a list of options that include, that we have in our schools. OSBA recommended a list of service programs and practices that didn't exactly line up with ours. So I worked with Angela Allen, our talented and gifted teacher on special assignment. We made a list of options of how we might serve our students in the Hillsboro School District. So you can see that list there, numbers 1 through 15. Some of those in that list are things that are special opportunities for kids, like academic competitions, but other items in that list are things that happen in classrooms all day long, every day for students who are talented and gifted. And the reason that we're focusing on this is that our data show that we have work to do with students who are tagged. And what I want to say as part of the introduction of the first reading of these updates is that we know that our talented and gifted students need special service in terms of the level of instruction they get, the rate of instruction they get. We have new revised plans to meet their social and emotional needs, including partnering with Pacific University to provide classes for parents on how to meet the social and emotional needs of their students. And we know that our students can't wait for us to provide challenging opportunities in the future that needs to be happening now. And I just want to say that as a value statement of the team that I work with in the Office for School Performance and as a context for the revision of these policies. So I'd welcome any questions that you have regarding the updates.
Okay. I see no questions. Very good.
That was way easier. Thanks.
Thank you, Travis. And the last policy that's up on first reading, JGAB, Elaine.
Okay, so this is JGAB, restraint and seclusion, 2 super minor changes. On the bottom of page 2, number 7, this talks about in the event when a student has been placed in a physical restraint or seclusion more than 10 times during the course of a school year, there's sort of an explanation of steps that need to be reported as to what we're doing for that student and how we're trying to reduce those restraints or seclusions for that student. So that's a new part of the reporting. And then on the following page, in the very last paragraph, it says the superintendent or designee shall develop administrative regulations. So the superintendent can assign somebody to do that if he is not available.
Anyone have questions for Elaine on this one? Okay. Thank you very much. Next, I see Paul is in the audience. Did you want any ESG news?
No report tonight.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then, who would like to go first tonight, HCU or HCA? It says HCU first on my agenda, so I'll let them go first.
Hello again. Today I wanted to talk to you about unintended consequences and the sort of things that happen at the building level. Over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of power given to local principals in order to focus on student achievement. That's, from what I understand, the principals basically kind of become totally or really responsible for the success of all students, and they're kind of that person who's really responsible for that school. And I feel that this focus on student achievement has kind of pushed some of the principals out there to sort of leave classified behind, that they don't quite treat them or they don't quite build this community of respect, this community of safety, that they don't have as much collaboration and they don't give as much support. Some of the examples are principals who tell staff, hey, we're going to, every meeting you go to, tell your building, your union rep to come with you. Doesn't matter what the topic is, just bring them on with you, which is kind of weird to hear. Or one of the big ones that really frustrate people is having your hours reduced at the same time that they're hiring new people. That's just, and telling them that they're just not a priority anymore, and that's their reasoning behind it. There's many instances of administrators criticizing staff about what they're doing or what their workload is or how they're performing their job and not providing tips or direction or suggestions to say, this is how I want you to do it better. And one of the more recent ones was when we had the half day, that there was a principal out there who told their staff, and when we finally figured out what was going on, it was they wanted them to go home and just leave and then come back and do some other stuff. But the way that the staff heard it was, go home, you're not needed. And it really is disrespectful to staff, and it makes them feel unwanted. And when they don't feel safe at work, when they think that their supervisor is out to get them, that there's gossip and rumor, it's really hard for them to focus on making sure that the building is prepared and ready for students to come in and learn, that everything is ready for the teacher to do the great job that they need to do. And I don't know if it's intentional. I hope that it's unintentional, that they don't realize that's what's going on. But that's really the difficult thing, that you get into this weird cycle of a principal who makes you feel kind of icky, that you can't feel you can trust them, and then that's the person you have to go to talk about issues. You start getting into this insulated issue of, you can't talk about issues and you don't want to talk about issues because you think that the principal will make your life difficult and all these other things. And we finally hear about it, and the staff member is really stressed out. And they're thinking about either leaving and we're losing their ability, or finally going in and like trying to break through their own fears and their own issues at that site to just have a positive conversation. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So what I really ask is please tell principals to really think about your actions and your words. It is both what you say and how you say it, because the principals set the agenda for the school. They're the ones who start building the community of trust and the community of mutual respect that's really necessary for our staff to really sing, to really do their best work and make sure that our students get the high quality education that they deserve. Thank you.
I just wanted to talk about the report cards because, when we were in school, report cards were used more to compare ourselves to each other. And now that we have standardized, that we're trying to achieve standards and show progress towards standards, we have to be thinking about how we can develop lifelong learners. And we should be aiming to have all students be getting the highest grades possible, because it's about them being prepared for their futures. So in the broader picture, those grades are also going to reflect on our progress, because if we can't get them to that point, then there's a problem with how we're trying to deliver the curriculum. So we know that reducing class size alone isn't going to be the only way towards achievement. That it has to be combined with professional development to allow teachers to take advantage of the smaller class sizes. Reduced class sizes would give students greater access to the teachers. And Linda Darling-Hammond's research shows that teacher expertise is one of the most important factors in determining achievement. So, when some students are not showing an acceptable performance, also we have to have support and be able to give them extra attention so that we can adapt our teaching or give them that more personal time so that they can all achieve. If thought exchange survey is kind of like one of our report cards, I think it would show us that Hillsboro meets or exceeds when we look at educators and administrators who are dedicated to their school success and committed to making a difference in their students' lives. I think where we might be wanting to find more support so that we can meet or exceed is that we can have safe environments in which students feel valued, loved, and challenged. That that they would be confident that staff is there to help them succeed and to be at their sides if they hit a rough patch. That we can offer support that encourages school leaders to take today's successes as tomorrow's starting point and to continuously improve practice and student achievement. So, the grades our students receive will really be a reflection of the resources and the support that we're given. And what we've learned from grading differently won't just be about our students, but about our whole learning community.
Thank you. Right.
I will be brief. Had the opportunity to visit two schools today. First was Quatama Elementary, started my day there. And the instructional technology, I wish it was one of our board field trips, because the instructional tech that was being used at the elementary level was just so incredibly impressive. The way that the teachers managed transitions, the kids could not help but be successful as they moved from one activity to the next. It was just such a demonstration of pros doing their job. It was really impressive. The other thing I was encouraged by is that I had a couple staff members pull me aside and just tell me how well their new principal was doing. Christy Walters is new there at Quatama, and you'll remember she filled in for us in a number of spots last year, but just for teachers to come up unsolicited, that just doesn't happen every day. So I appreciate that. The second school I visited, I was invited out to Henry to talk with a group of second graders about jobs in the community. Specifically, they were to interview me about my job. So I haven't been in the second grade. I haven't taught a second grade classroom in a while. And it turns out they really scare me. But, the questions that they ask and the deliberate nature that you have to take and the way you phrase everything, it was just a stark reminder. I've been in middle school most recently, and so very different. Not in maturity, but in behavior. Very different. One of the questions the teacher asked is they said, well, this is the superintendent. Can you guess what his job is just by the title? And so we had people guessing, he's an electrician. He wires houses, right? No, it doesn't do that. He saves people. I kind of like that one. It didn't get much traction with the second graders. And some people thought I was a writer, but then it all went bad when someone said, he runs a candy shop. And then they couldn't get off candy shop. It turned out it was a 5-minute deal. So I should have gone into the candy business. Those are my visits today. Thank you.
And Board Director time, Eric?
Yeah, well, I just want to thank our board chair for running a very efficient meeting tonight. I thought we'd be here till midnight, and we might even finish on the early side.
Yeah, a couple of things. I wanted to, I don't know if anyone had an opportunity to see Oregon Live feature one of our students over at Liberty High School. She's a student, her family is very dear to me, and I mentioned her one time in my board comments. Her name is Wheatseed, and we had a conversation about her name and her not, your name reflects, and she said, I always bothered me because I used to always have to help people, pronounce my name correct, and so be it. So she said, but the coolest thing was we were in our history class going through our textbooks, and my name was in there, and the kids, I didn't even notice it because they were studying the Aztecs, Indians, and so one of the students is like, hey, your name is there, and it was really cool because everybody knew how to pronounce her name because that was her name. So just check out Oregon Live. She's one of our students. She's actually the first that they're featuring. It's not just another face in the crowd. She's part of our YAC group. She is a leader who you would never think that was a leader, but she's a quiet leader. So just shoot you over there. Her name is Weeksy. Check out Oregon Live. The other thing is I am in school for my master's right now, and I was thinking about both the HCU and the presentation. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. What you shared, and it just drew a light bulb because a discussion that we had. A lot of my classmates work in the classroom as classified assistants, and we had Liz Darling Hammond's book and the entire thing, and some of them were discussing strategies, teacher development, and as you said, number one is teacher expertise. And in our small group, one of our assistants said that her principal invites her to all the invites her classified staff and highly recommends that they go and tries to find a budget so that they do, because the philosophy at that school is a lot of co-teaching. And so she says, I know we're not technically getting paid for it and everything, but she goes, I'm learning so much, and she always finds it in the budget. As to where another classmate discussed, oh no, we never, we don't get invited, that's kind of like the teacher thing. And so we had this conversation about that and improving and the whole thing. So it's just right now, just the connection that you made, and then the discussion we had in class just kind of opened up the importance of all our staff, all our peeps. Wayne?
Not much, it's good. I just wanted to say a little bit, been glad to have the opportunity. It's been a busy month with the committee work. There's been several meetings of the Graduation Requirements Committee, and that's been a very insightful process. I appreciate the work that has gone on to bring that forward, and I look forward to continuing that. It's great to contemplate the kind of bar that we want to come in and set for our students. Everything in our history says that our students will always impress us with the expectations that we set and how they'll outreach them, and it's important, I think, to make sure that we set those bars high so that they will be able to reach beyond.
Well, not a whole lot from my end either. Just want to say thank you for everyone who came. I really appreciate the student presentation we had tonight. It's not every day you get zombies up behind you. So, and the robot group, kudos to those kids and their advisors and all the other kids who came to see us tonight. So it's been a Not as long as I thought meeting, and great fun, so thank you for a well-put meeting. And thank everyone else for coming.
Janine? I just wanted to share a couple things. Touch on Manufacturing Day, where a company where I work for, Vernier Software and Technology, they participated in the Manufacturing Day as well. We had 40 students from the Beaverton School District that came around, and it was an exciting day to see that these kids were putting careers in, oh my gosh, I never realized that I could do this and this. And then we had somebody from PCC come and talk, and that was all organized by the School to Work program, and just a phenomenal bunch of ladies that really worked together to bring these opportunities together for students. So thank you to them and to the district for supporting that role for those students. Kim touched a little bit, and I wrote this down for, we all look for opportunities. We know that staff members pay so much for things that supplies and different things that they want for innovations and stuff in their classroom. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go to Donors Choose, it is an amazing website that you can go to, and you can pick the district, the state, the district, and look at all their projects. And you can actually donate money to their projects. And it could be technology. I've helped fund an alphabet carpet in a classroom, and it's just a big variety, books and everything else. So check out Donors Choose. They even provide you at the end of the year a nice little shows you how much money you had spent, so you can submit that for your taxes. And it's a direct way for you to help directly in the classroom. So yeah, that's what great presentations tonight. Great to have folks engaged in the process of everything, and be here and have the confidence to come and speak in front of folks to share your feelings and whatnot. So thank you so much.
Monty?
I want to first thank the ladies for coming tonight. We appreciate your input, and as you meet with our administration, if you're not satisfied, please please contact us directly. You've already reached out to Eric, but any board member, we usually copy Mike on anything we get anyway. So we want to be all inclusive. We want to be in this together to resolve any concerns you may have. Also, I've been observing PL's professional learning communities. I was thinking hockey. At all our secondary schools, and those teachers have an hour a week where they collaborate. You'd be impressed. Very professional. They get down to business. They're thinking about our kids, especially the ones that are struggling, and they've got plans in place to help those kids. And it's very gratifying.
I will ditto what everyone else said about seeing students and hearing directly from them about the experiences they're having. And so you've all earned free time. So I will remind you that this is the closing weekend of plays at Hill High and Liberty. We're both doing very unusual shows, and Glen Coast Fall Play opens next weekend. So local, cost-effective entertainment that you have all earned time off for. And with
Don't forget to vote.
And don't forget to vote. And with that, we're